she could break my heart again and again, and I would still thank her for the opportunity. Hello again, friends and strangers. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, feel free to join us. Today I will be sharing with you the books that I read last January, and we'll start with Layla by Colleen Hoover. This was my very first read of the year, and I was expecting a bit, but also not, because when I was reading it, I keep on comparing it with Verity by the same author, which I loved so much because of how fucked up it is. Knowing the blurb, which is this character meets Layla and they fell in love instantly. Then one day Layla gets attacked by who? I won't spoil it for you, but Layla was changed after this incident, after this attack, and their relationship also changed. So Leeds decided to bring Layla to where they first met, and they will treat it as a vacation in hopes of rekindling whatever they had before. When they were in the house, creepy shit starts to happen, courtesy of the third character, Willow. I love Colleen Hoover, and every book that I've read by her I liked and enjoyed, and Layla is definitely a new genre for her because it's like a paranormal romance, which she doesn't usually write because she's mostly on the romance side of things. When I saw that Layla is also going to be like a romance thriller mystery, I thought that okay, maybe this is also going to be good, and I think it's wrong of me to think that when I was about to read the book. But
when will I ever film without noise? I swear to God.
Because I keep on comparing it to Verity, which is my favorite thriller book of all time. The things that I liked about it, one is the writing. Colleen Hoover's romance building and writing it works for me, and I liked it. Plus the mystery of it all and the concept of taking over someone's body and having a bit of access to their memories was interesting for me. The book also had a very promising start, but what made it not work for me is that the reveals and the plot twists fell flat for me, as they seemed very forced and a bit muddled. I also wasn't invested on Leeds, the main character, because of, I don't know, he just seemed stupid to me, and there were parts where I was like, bitch, the audacity. If you want a bit more of a spoilery segment of this review, what made it super interesting was that the stakes that were on the table for our main characters, especially Leeds. Imagine that you and your girlfriend get attacked by your mentally unstable ex-girlfriend, and your girlfriend wasn't the same after that. Then you plan a vacation in a place where you two meet, which is kind of sweet. Then when you are on the house, you're starting to see and hear unexplainable things, like your laptop closing in on you, the piano playing on its own. Then you find out that it's a ghost, and you try to talk to it, obviously, because that's perfectly normal. You find out that the reason that your girlfriend is acting weird while eating sometimes was that the ghost takes over your girlfriend's body because the ghost is hungry. So you continue talking to the ghost while that ghost is still inhabiting your girlfriend's body, and you and the ghost keep on abusing your girlfriend's body because you're starting to fall for each other. And you tell yourself that the reason you're doing this is so you could help the ghost find the answers for whatever she's looking for. And then there comes a time that your girlfriend wants to leave the house because you've stayed there for so long already, but you don't want to leave because you don't want to leave the ghost. While I do understand that it's an extremely difficult situation to be in as the boyfriend, what with wanting to stay in love and rekindle your romance with your girlfriend, who isn't the same as when you met her before, and at the same time you're trying to not fall in love with this ghost, and you can't just tell these to spare Layla by breaking up with her and just end things off because the ghost would lose a body to inhabit or to take over. It was the twists and the reveals that threw me off because, again, this is a super spoiler. It turns out then when the ex-girlfriend attacked Layla in Leeds, their souls got mixed up, and the ghost is actually the girlfriend, as in Layla. Like, the ex-girlfriend's spirit is the one inhabiting Layla, and the ghost is Layla's spirit because they got interchanged. And I'm like, is that it? Like, it had such a promising premise and it fell flat for me, so it didn't work for me. Then for the next part of my wrap up, these are the following books that Gizmo chose for me during my January TBR video, which you can watch here. One of those books is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, and I don't know how to expound this review more, but just, it's literally perfect, like nothing else. And what is These Violent Delights about? It's a Romeo and Juliet retelling in the 1920s back in Shanghai. There's gang wars, there's blood feuds that span generations. At the same time, there's a madness going on where people are ripping their throats out, which may or may not be caused by the monster lurking in the city. This madness has sort of forced the Montagovs, or the White Flowers, and red. Wait, was it red? Scarlet Gang. This madness has sort of forced the two gangs, the White Flowers, which is the Montagovs, and the Scarlet Gang, which is led by the Kais. This sort of forced them to work together to find out the cause of this madness and put an end to it. What I liked about this book, aside from me just saying that it's literally perfect, is Chloe Gong's writing is so elegant and brimming with so much adventure, longing, pain, and so much pining. So much pining. If you're looking for a friends to lovers to enemies to friends to lovers again trope, this is perfect for you. You should pick up These Violent Delights. Like, Lord, thank you for the blessing that is Miss Chloe Gong. Whatever she writes, I will pick up. Like, she could break my heart again and again, and I would still thank her for the opportunity. The book also shed some light on the problematic social-political climate in this world. There's the nationalists versus the communists, and the war for control and power among foreigners. There's also Juliet Kai, who's dealing with not being Chinese enough and not being Western enough. Along with Chloe's writing, the amount of research that was put into this is really good, and it shows. The world building felt so real and authentic. Like, while I was reading this, I keep imagining it as a movie or as a TV show, actually. The book also shed some light on the misogynistic ways people had to live with, the power play and the role that gender has when it comes to power and being deemed worthy of respect is talked about and tackled in this book perfectly. And there's nothing I don't like about this book except that I need more Miss Chloe. Hurt me more. Another part of my January TBR is Empress of Salt and Fortune by Nghi. It's a short fantasy novella in the perspective of an empress's handmaiden called the Rabbit. So I'm correcting myself with the TBR video that I made because I said that it was on a perspective of a rabbit. That's why I was interested in it, but it turns out that it's actually just a nickname for the character, and the character is nicknamed the Rabbit. What I liked about this book is that the audiobook narration is so impeccable. It's so fantastic. Like, Cindy K did a really good job narrating it. It being such a short book wasn't a deterrent to delivering such a lush and inspiring story. It was able to shell out and reflect on the power of feminism in the midst of a very misogynistic monarchy. The only thing that I didn't like about this book is that it had a very slow and confusing start, but once I got to read more, I was into it. The fourth book that I read this January is The Last Time We Say Goodbye by Cynthia. Just a quick blurb about this story. It's about our main character Lexi, whose brother killed himself. The book follows Lexi as she grapples with the new fact, which is that her brother is not coming back for good, and that they had to live on without him, and that her brother has his own reasons why he killed himself. It also revolves around Lexi's regrets and eventual acceptance of what happened. I liked how the book zoned in on what it feels like to lose someone you love. I liked how the writing was able to spotlight the different exploding feelings that the main character had, which is regret, so much anger, and eventually forgiveness and acceptance. I also liked how it shows how complicated it is to be the recipient of pity, and on the other side of the coin, be that friend or family member who doesn't really know the 100% correct way to comfort someone without sounding cliche or insensitive. Like, it makes you question, how do you comfort someone who doesn't even know how to comfort themselves? I also like the message that the book is giving us. Like, no matter how hard you try, life won't go the way that you always want it to go. Like, there will be times that you're gonna be beat down, and it's not always your fault. It's not always a decision that you make. It heavily tackles suicide and how suicide is such a taboo topic, and how the dead person is treated differently when people find out that they killed themselves. Like, there was this one part of the book. There were students in the same school where the brother goes to, and there was a part where Lexi realized that the other students who go to this school who died, they died of... Hold on. Okay, so here. I bet good money that they didn't do that kind of thing with Haley, who lost her battle with cystic fibrosis 2 years ago, or Sammy Sullivan, who died of complications from pneumonia, or Jacob, who was killed in a car crash driving home drunk from a party at somewhere last summer. Jacob got a tree planted for him at the front of the school, a plaque under it that I pass every day walking in that reads, "We'll miss you, Jay." Sammy got a moment of silence during first period that year, and an entire page of the yearbook devoted to her memory. They read Haley's name at graduation. But Ty is the brother, but Ty got his locker packed up and delivered promptly back to my mother before we even had a chance to bury him, because it was suicide, because they don't want to seem like they were condoning it. So it's such a powerful message to convey in the book, how suicide actually is still taboo right now. Another thing that I liked about this book is that Lexi has a therapist, and her therapist told her that one of the things that could help her deal with the grief is to write, and to write to someone. So the chapters are also told in Lexi's journal entries. The overall lesson that I got from the book is that it's okay to feel things, but it's also okay to accept and forgive, whether that's yourself or whether that's other people. And overall, I really liked this book. Another book that I read from my January TBR is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. The book is about an elk hunting gone wrong situation because of a group of friends who shot so many elks in a forbidden territory. Then 10 years later, a monster is out to hunt them. Thoughts about this book? The book is really character driven. It shows the uniqueness and the flaws of the characters fluidly and vividly. They are written very well. This book is categorized as horror, and it's the kind of horror that is unsettling, distressing, and ominous. Reading it gives you this feeling of dread that something bad will always happen to the characters. The writing is very intense and surreal, although the kind of writing that you need full brain power for. The world building plays out as if I'm watching a movie, and it's something that I very much liked about the book. Although a lot of the deaths are gruesome and very graphic, somehow Stephen Graham Jones managed to make it sound beautiful and poetic. I'm like, how? It's also the kind of horror book that doesn't rely on jump scares because it just builds up and then the book also offers commentaries on the injustices and the racism that Native Americans go through and still face up to this day. To read this book, I highly recommend the audiobook, which is narrated by Sean Taylor Corbett. It was so fantastic. It was so good. It really helped me get into the story more while I was reading it with my eyes. So I highly recommend this. The sixth book in my January wrap-up is Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. So what is this book about? It's about a 15-year-old boy who runs away from home in search of something or someone, and he feels like him running away from home is part of a prophecy that he needs to run away from. On the other hand, an old man, Nakata, who can talk to cats and make things rain out of the sky, is living in a shell of a life, hugely because of something that he experienced when he was 9 years old, and it was during World War II. So after what happened to Nakata, he was a changed man. These two characters are somehow connected by circumstances and the people that they meet along the way. Thoughts about this book? It's really dense and slow paced that you have to really pause and savor each word, each page. As usual with Murakami's writing, it's very lush and intricate. Like, no matter how mundane the thing or place is, he somehow manages to describe it very poetically. Poetically? In a poetic way. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword with the way that he writes things, because there are some things that he describes that some people will feel uncomfortable about, especially the way he describes women in the point of view of a 15-year-old boy. What I like the most about this book is how mind-bending and confusing it is, yet at the same time it makes so much sense. I also liked how the past was told in a form of confidential-ish interviews from after and during World War II. The interviews talked about what happened to Nakata and how he lost his memory and how he was suddenly stupid. What makes it so interesting is the magical realism aspect of the book that Murakami easily coalesced with the mundane. Like, the main character being able to talk to cats, that same character being able to make it rain leeches and fishes. Another is spirits being able to leave the people's bodies to fulfill or do stuff like murdering someone or having sex with someone. Then they'll wake up and think that it was all a dream. Again, this part of the book made me a bit uncomfortable because of a sexual relation, which was also a bit graphically described, between the 15-year-old Kafka and a 50-plus-year-old woman. So I'm like, yikes. Insert Chrissy Teigen's meme here. Also, there's this fucked up prophecy for the lead character Kafka, told to him by his father, which is someday Kafka will murder his father and sleep with his sister and his mother. What? This isn't fun times. Again, with the way that Murakami describes things, like in the perspective of this 15-year-old boy, like, I get that 15-year-old boys have super raging hormones, but really, like, that also says a lot about the 50-year-old women. I guess what made me so uncomfortable is how the magical realism aspect of the book was seemingly used to validate the pedophilia and the rape that happened because
was there spirits that did that, or did it happen in their dreams anyway?
what? At the end of the day though, these characters all have something in common. They are all finding pieces of themselves in this world, and they're finding their purposes in life, that no matter how hard you try to escape fate, it's going to chase after you. The book is not trying to achieve much or anything at all. It gives the readers the freedom to interpret whatever happened here and to digest it the way that they want to. Before picking this book up, please read the trigger warnings, because there's so much. There's gore, there's graphic violence, again there's pedophilia, there's rape, there's animal cruelty, there's animal death, there's death of a loved one, like there's so much. I still don't know if I'm gonna recommend this to people, but as long as they are aware of the trigger warnings, I'm okay with that. I dived in without knowing much about this book, and now you're aware of some of the things that are gonna happen here. And that wraps up everything that I read in January. That's a total of 6 books, and I was able to read all of the books that Gizmo chose for me. I generally had a good reading month for January, considering everything. I was able to read a total of 6 books, and most of them I liked and enjoyed very much. Please comment down below what you were able to read this January, and if there are things that you would like to recommend to me. Aside from that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Again, thank you very much for getting to this point of the video. You are the real MVP for keeping up with this bullshit. And with that, I'll see you again next time, friends and strangers. Have a nice day, have a nice night, wherever you are. I don't know how to end videos, so roll the outro, editing Pam, future Pam.